What happens when an entire generation grows up online without the guidance to mentally and emotionally navigate the digital world and the understanding of how it shapes their sense of self? For today's young people, the line between life online and life offline is almost invisible. What we see on screen is only half the story. In this episode, I'm joined by Daniella Ivanir from the Half the Story Project, an organization helping young people build healthy relationships with technology while strengthening their mental health and well being. Through youth led digital wellness curriculums, teen advisory boards, and leadership programs, Half the Story Project is equipping young people with the tools to navigate both their digital and physical worlds. We talk about why meeting young people where they are matters and the noticeable difference between talking with teens instead of talking about them. And when we listen, the results may surprise us. Teens are bringing back the basics, things like bulletin boards, screen free events, hands on activities, and real conversations that pull teens away from constant scrolling and back into their community. We'll see that when young people help design the solutions, they don't just participate, they take the lead. Let's get into it. We're meeting with real leaders shaping a healthier future for our young people. We dig into what motivates them and how their work makes a difference. I'm CJ Sturmer, and this is the Champions for Youth podcast. Hi, Daniella. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate your time.
Hi, CJ. So happy to be here.
I've had the opportunity to learn about this incredible organization, Half the Story Project, that really helps youth to understand their emotional intelligence and the different ways to approach social media and online culture these days. But I'm curious to hear about you. How did you get into this work? What motivated you to dive into helping young people?
Thank you for all those kind words. And I'm super excited to be here to talk about my favorite thing, which is my work and what I get to do with Half the Story. I am the Youth Engagement and Advocacy Manager, and my job is basically making sure that teen voices are infused in everything we do, which makes a lot of sense to who I am because my journey started as a teen myself. At 15 years old, I started volunteering for a teen to teen suicide prevention hotline.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right? Like casual, not intense at all for a teenager.
Right. Especially at 15 years old, that you really dived into it.
Yeah, so it was really one of the most special things I've ever gotten to do. Now, looking at it, what I realized I was doing was collecting stories from my generation of what we were going through while I was living it live, right? And kind of understanding something different might be happening here. Like it seems like
Mhm.
there are rising rates of something. And it was like 2014, so it was still a little unclear what that was. But I think now, like someone recently asked me if I ever took a call that was around social media on the hotline. And I realized it was the wrong question because the way that the digital world and the real world are intertwined for young people today makes it so likely every call or text that I took at Teen Line had some mention of social media. That's how
Wow.
linked they are. And I learned that really young and I learned the power of peer support and brought that with me. So I went to college, I went to UC Berkeley, I studied psychology and public policy. And what I took there and was what I had brought from Teen Line. When I looked around, it was the COVID-19 pandemic. I was a sophomore in college and I looked around a Zoom room, not in
Right.
person.
That in and of itself brought so many challenges along with it for teens.
Yes. And like up to the surface, like I think it expedited something that maybe was going to happen in a way that no one expected. And I noticed the isolation that students suddenly had. We were scattered across the world. And also just the pressure, the immense pressure that students at a rigorous college are under,
Right.
and the way that people just felt like they were drowning in it. And so I wanted to bring something similar that I had seen the power, of Teen Line, of the hotline I worked at to save lives. And so I founded the first anonymous peer-to-peer hotline on my campus. And it just was that through line for me was understanding something was happening with my generation. I know tech is a critical part of that puzzle. And I
Right.
wanted to, like, I felt like an investigator, like, what's going on? Fast forward 2023, I meet this woman, Lars May, and she really changed my life. She gave me the opportunity to lead the teen advocacy efforts at Half the Story, and the rest is history.
That's incredible. It really shows the journey of how impactful having resources for young people really can be, especially really trying times. It's
Mhm.
like you said, we had a pandemic. I'm a college student. We're in this
Yeah.
world of tech. Plus, social media is just such a it's ingrained in our culture now, right? You went to work for Half the Story Project. Tell me a little bit more about the organization. What exactly is it that they do?
Yep. A little bit going back 11 years ago, Half the Story started as a global storytelling movement by a young girl, 19 years old, named Lars May. And this all started in her dorm room in one of the darkest periods of her life. And she was navigating the digital world for the first time, same way I was, same way the teens I work with now are,
Mm,
with no roadmap, with no warning label of how it could affect her sense of self when you are just trying things on. You're transitioning from high school to college. And our core belief is still rooted in that origin, which is essentially like, young people are the experts of their experience, especially when it comes
right.
to technology, and we need to be listening to them to lead the future of tech and social media. So, how do we do that? I like to think about it basically as leading a digital wellness revolution by meeting teens where they are.
I like
Right?
that.
I like
Yeah.
that. So, what that looks like in school and out of school innovative education programs across the US and UK that implement our curriculum SMU. That's the focus on the digital well being piece, the inside individual part. And I like to think about our curriculum as like the driver's ed for navigating the digital world, which is fun.
Yeah. I like that. The driver's ed, that's something that really clicks. And I
Right?
get that.
Because it's also the type of thing where it's like, why would I let you in a car without driver's ed? And
Right.
similar to getting a device, like, why would I let you enter this world without any understanding of the language and the tools that you need to thrive in it? Outside of that, and this is the advocacy piece, we're dedicated to building programs that ensure that young people are present at every table where decisions are being made about them. So, for example, this year we launched our New York Teen Tech Council, which was in partnership with the state of New York and Governor Kathy Hochul. And as phone policies were being passed across the state, we came in and said, if you want these to be implemented in a way that's really going to meet the goals of improved mental health, of improved social connection, we need to be putting young people at the driver's seat. And so
Uh,
we're actually awarding students up to $5,000 to create digital wellness initiatives in their school. That's that like culture shift piece. And then the last thing I'll say is just really everything we do at the end of the day is rooted in co design and in teen innovation.
First of all, Larissa didn't have a lot, right? I think that's a
Yep.
really good example
Right?
of it doesn't take a lot to get started. You don't need this massive
No.
amounts of funding. You don't need this huge strategy and all these people. It just takes
Hmm.
a little bit of spark to say, I want to
Yeah.
do something. And I like that you all are meeting people where they are. I think that's also really, really important is
Yeah.
it's not one of those if you build it, they will come situations. And a lot of times when
Right.
I hear about these successful programs, it's because they met them where they are. They went to them
Hmm.
to then, like you said, have
Yes.
youth involved. They have to have a seat at the table, not just to give their
Yep.
opinions, but to help develop and to help optimize. If you want youth to adapt your programs, you got to get them involved. Like that's just it. And
They
then you
gotta be there.
partnered. You got to be there.
Yep.
You
They
have to,
gotta
they
be
have
there.
to be there. They have
Yeah.
to absolutely be there. I totally agree with you. And then you
Yep.
have this amazing partnerships with these different schools and these students. So these partnerships, like
Yes.
that's important. So Larissa started this organization and now you all have gone through 11
Mhm.
years. What kind of scenarios are you seeing in young people nowadays, especially with the evolution from 19 years ago of social media and the digital
Yes.
world? What are the scenarios like now that have adapted over time that students and young people are facing these days?
Let's start here. Teens will spend 30 years of their life behind a screen.
That's a
So
long time.
that's a long time. A lot of the things that we want to achieve in our life can happen with 30 years, right? That's precious.
Right.
That's a precious thing. As you mentioned too, it's like growing up in the digital age is rapidly changing. That experience changed since you grew up, it's changed since I got social media in 6th grade in 2014. It's different now. Like for every 1 year, I think it already changes. Now there's even more addictive algorithms, there's more information overload, and still no regulation.
Right.
So, one of the things that I really think about is not knowing where the digital world begins and the real world ends. So, your personal life, your academic life, your professional life, all of it exists online and bleeds into your real life. So, things like,
Right.
the fact that we have brain rot language, like the fact that we've internet speak that bleeds
Right.
into our daily life.
We talking emojis.
We talk in emojis, no, literally. And I think some of the specific ways that I see the digital world shaping how young people feel, there's this constant comparison. Who you are on social media is only half the story. We
Mm,
are constantly comparing ourselves and performing to something that is curated. Second piece is really this information overload. All times, there's this thing in your pocket that's going to tell you where your friends are, where
yep.
you weren't invited, what grade update in your email while you're out, with your family having dinner. All
Right.
of that is something you have to like regulate in your body at all
Right.
times.
And the ding, 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 ding,
And the
all these
notifications
notifications.
and the
Yeah.
like, and they're so evil about it. They'll be like, here's what, this person posted right now. Like,
Yeah.
and then again, the way the algorithms work right now, all of that's being amplified. So if you're feeling low about something, your body image, your career, it's going to feed you more of that to get one more click. We've basically asked an entire generation to grow up in an environment that is optimized for engagement, not well-being, and we didn't give them the tools or the language or the power to shape that environment. A lot of what we're hearing is things like the doom scroll. Doom scroll is basically you are finding yourself setting out to check one notification and then somehow boom 2 hours have just gone by. I mean, more often, right? It's like 4.
Right. 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 Not no.
Not know, and you just get lost in that, and I think that's this sense of agency, that's something I hear from young people all the time, that lack of
Right.
control, and I think also just being in that vacuum or echo chamber, like the way the
Uh,
algorithms work now, I hear from young people all the time, they're unsure what other people are thinking because they're basically only getting what their feed is serving to them. And it like there's this feeling sometimes of like, oh yeah, that's what is on TikTok right now. And it's like, well, I don't know what your TikTok looks like. Like that's going to
right.
look entirely different. My experience, I get the chance to really sit down with young people, and what's really special and what adults don't always realize is like they're aware of that. They're aware of these things. They want the tools to be able to thrive in the digital and the in-person world,
Right. That the half the story, the digital and an in person.
to have the story of it all.
And I think you hit something really, really powerful. That's what the algorithm does.
Yep.
And I've always said this is one of the biggest currency these days is time. And these
Yes.
algorithms, they want that time, right? I don't want you on time on the streaming
No.
or other platforms. I want your time here, right? So it's almost like
Yes.
this currency. And then to your point, like
Yeah.
the algorithm feeds you what you want to see to keep you there.
Mhm.
So it creates this confirmation bias. And I would like, I
Yeah.
can only imagine like that's so taxing on your mental health to
Yeah.
constantly be in this world of just scroll, scroll, scroll. I mean, honestly, I'm guilty of it.
Absolutely.
I see it too. And it's
Yeah.
just not always the most positive thing.
It's not. We see digital well-being as this inside out job, and so what you are feeling on your tech is cyclical with what's happening in your emotions and in your body. So if
Right.
you're coming to your tech from a place of deficit and like a numbness, you're going to be in that moment more susceptible to that doom scroll, to that feeling of comparison of there is this person who looks better than me, there's this person who's doing better than me.
Right.
And I think that's part of that mindfulness that we try to teach young people too is like, check in with yourself. Like, where am I at in my scroll? Like, I find this in myself too. It's like, oh, I'm feeling low already. I don't know that this is the best thing for me right now.
Right. And it's like you said, they're asking for these tools. And that's the value of having a seat at the
Yes.
table is we're hearing the solutions that they want. So what kind of
Yeah.
tools do we need to develop to help solve for these feelings and these interactions that we're having online? Tell me a little bit more about these programs and how you're helping to solve for this.
First thing, you've heard me say it a couple times already, this idea of co-creation and co-design. What does
Yeah.
that mean? How do we do that? At the center of our programming, we have our teen advisory board. Our teen advisory board is really that group of young people. There's 25 students from across the United States.
Amazing.
It's like walks of life, but also walks of scroll, like just different
Walks of scroll.
FYP.
Yeah.
blocks of scroll. And so they are, again, like the center of what we do. They're co creating our curriculum, our programming, our social media campaigns. So that's our teen advisory board. So from the individual level, we're thinking about digital well being. We have Social Media U, that is our innovative, active learning based digital wellness curriculum. Mouthful. And they're really like empowering young people with the emotional resilience and healthy digital habits. That's that like from the inside out place. That's where we're meeting young people in their classrooms after school through partnerships. And that's really like the basis of like feeling good in the individual level. From there, we're seeing things like phone bans pop up in schools across the country. Educators and young people are really looking
Right.
around to figure out, how do we make this work? How do we make
Right.
this feel safe? How do we innovate things so that they maybe go back to something that used to work, like, bulletin boards instead of posting things on Instagram?
Vintage.
Yeah, exactly. It's like bringing back those retro elements. And so with our Teen Tech Councils, this is something we just started in New York and we're expanding to other states. We're partnering with state leaders to meet the moment of things like phone bans. And in the future, it might be AI policies. How do
Right.
we put young people and teen innovation at the forefront of that? So, for example, we have young people creating projects, things like, a detox room in their wellness center that's focused on digital unplugging. We have hobby
Mm.
fairs. We have, screen free proms. This is really that culture shift part. And then the last sort of piece is the digital advocacy. That's the place where we're like, great, we're having those young people that we might have met in the classroom a couple years ago. Now they're going off to college. How do we equip them and also bridge them into the careers and pathways so that they're leading us to pass the regulation policies that we want to pass, to actually create new tech systems that serve them? And that's
Mm.
our week-long summer program. And we have like master classes from tech leaders and digital wellness leaders. And we train 100+ kids from across the world in what we're calling digital civics.
It's fascinating that you all are going back to such a, I'm gonna call it a long time ago. Cause when I
Yeah.
was an undergrad is when Facebook was being created. Like I remember
Yep.
when I was a freshman and a sophomore in college,
Yeah.
Facebook was like only this tiny little thing that was at Ivy League school. So I was
Yeah.
around back when bulletin boards were how you got information. I was a
Totally.
resident assistant in undergrad and I created so many bulletin
Yeah.
boards all the time to
Yeah.
get them information about what was going on in our community,
Yeah.
even just in our own residence hall. So it's really interesting you're going back to that and that you're giving them
Yep.
opportunities to unplug, which I think is so powerful. And it's just not like, oh,
Yeah.
here's a bulletin board. It's like, no, we're giving you
Right.
opportunities for the detoxing to engage with one another without the distraction of the screen. I think that's
Yeah.
absolutely fascinating. And it kind of gives them a new perspective, I guess, on the world. It's like, look what all that's around you and gives you the opportunity to really be present, which I think has a lot of
Yes.
powerful inclination behind it.
Yes.
And then I love that we're not just going to cut it off. It's not going to end. That's something that I
Right.
hear when I talk to young people. They say, well, after I graduate high school, it's like, okay, well, that's it. What
Yes.
happens next? And so I think it's really great that
Yes.
you all are providing opportunity to make what they're going through sustainable. Let me set
Yeah.
you up for future success so
Yes.
that you can then be successful in your own right and then be able to carry that forward.
I think that sometimes that's like this period of time where you get all these like free resources and enrichment programs. And then the real, like, how do I do that though? Like, how do I
The
become
how?
an
How?
impact leader?
Right.
How? How do I actually, turn a spark into a movement? That's the piece that's really critical for us. And so, yeah, I mean, I have the privilege of getting to see young people through a couple different phases and programs. I really think it's special because I think there's like different kinds of impacts that I get to see. So, one story that comes up is this young person that did our Digital Civics Academy last summer. She was in a Zoom room with one of our guest speakers. It was a New York senator, and
Wow.
we had a Q&A. At some point, she raises her hand, she asks the question, he's super impressed with her, and he just says to her, please sign up to apply to be an intern in my office. And
Wow.
I ran into her recently and she was like, I am now an intern running teen tech research for Senator Andrew Bernardus.
That's incredible.
It's so cool, and it brings me back to, like you said in the beginning, those, early resources changing your life, the opportunities that I got really setting me off to a path where I think I could do good as a living, right? Like, those, like,
Right.
real opportunities, the how. And then there's the quieter impact, and I think it's just as special and just as important. Last winter, we did some focus groups with middle school girls as part of our national partnership with Girls Inc. And we're sitting in classrooms with middle schoolers in their own like after school. And it was really interesting because I was sitting around and I was asking them questions, and they'd be sitting with their friends. And at first, when I'd ask them about how social media affects their mental health, they'd kind of
Mm,
be like, it doesn't. And part of that's because they're used to adults talking down to them and blaming them
right.
and saying, get off that phone, and not seeing that there's nuance of that like experience. But then as I would talk to them more, I would see like one girl share, I actually do wish I could spend less time scrolling. Like there are times where I wish I could go outside and get some fresh air, but I feel locked in. And it was just really cool to see how the other girls sitting next to her in that moment share more. And I think it's having that language and the tools be talked about, especially in middle school. I guess it's just something I wish I had. And
Yeah, same.
right? Like left to our own devices, youth is a short, fleeting period. Those small moments, like that, conversation, that peer moment with your friend where you're opening something up you've never talked about, like they make a really big difference.
Agree, and it shows that it's just not a one size fits all, right? Like, you have one
Mhm.
person that says something, and then you have literally right next to this young person that, "I see what you're offering, and I see
Yeah.
how that really is something that I need." And so to have
Mhm.
these 2 different dynamic and almost polar opposites of what a teen
Yeah.
says that they need, and what a great way to show an example of where you pay it forward. You were able to provide value in this young person's life of introducing them to a
Mhm.
policymaker, like, hello,
Right.
that's such a big opportunity, and then creating a job out of
Yes.
it where that adult saw value in this young person's experience. Okay, this policymaker and this adult really does care about what I'm saying and what I'm doing. And another thing I really liked about the programs, it's very activities, it's very hands-on. You all call it
Yes.
play based, which I thought was a really cool way of putting it. Tell me a little bit more
Yeah.
about this play based. What does that mean?
Yeah, totally. We take play really seriously. And I think, especially for like after school programs, like when I did those focus groups, you show up, they do not want more school. Like they are
Right.
tired. They are done. So yeah, I mean, I think the way we look at it with our social media U program, we have these like 4 C's. It's connect, consider, create, change. And we want to follow the young person through these different concepts through things like, for example, we have this game called Crash Out. It's like Jenga pieces, and it's meant to actually, I don't know if you know the term crash out, but it's like the
I
way
do.
that the
I do. I'm not that old. I know what crash out is.
listeners, I'm just translating for all audiences, okay? So a crash out might be when you're freaking out, everything's gone wrong, and we use this like Jenga game to actually represent the way that that falls, like that it can all come crashing down. And so, yeah, we really see play as this moment for young people, one, to connect with each other, and just to do this like active learning to really understand that this is something that like we try to kind of also walk the walk on digital well-being, which is like how do we swap ed tech for more friendship bracelets, or
How Taylor Swift.
yes, exactly, handwriting a letter. Like these
Yeah,
are the things that are a lost form, and so we're really trying to lean into that and also understand that young people learn in so many different ways, and we
right.
want this to be just like a really fun and value add experience for them.
Playing doesn't end at 7 years old at recess. I love a
No.
good game night. So, hey, I'm on board
No,
with that.
exactly.
So many great programs, and there's a lot of value that young people see in this clearly. How did you know that what you all were doing was really
Mhm.
making a difference?
Yeah, I love that question, and I feel lucky that it happens to me often. But the story that sticks with me is we did a campaign last spring, and it was called Screen Free Proms, and it was this nationwide campaign. It was designed designed by our teen advisory board. And the idea was to swap screens at prom for digital cameras and Polaroids. So I got the
Fun.
opportunity, right? I got the opportunity to go to two of them that our youth leaders were organizing. There was one in San Francisco and one in Salt Lake City. And I just had this moment where I saw this youth led culture shift come to life. And these two students came up to me after, and I really will always remember them because the girl had made her and her date's dress and suit jacket out of like the little like caps of soda cans. It was amazing. It
Interesting.
was so cool. And they had just won one of the lottery prizes in our prom, which was like this Lego set of a digital camera. And they were like, we love Lego. And so they came up to me after and they were just like, we just wanted to tell you that we think this is so cool. We think it's so needed. We want more of this. It made me feel like this is the story we need to be telling. There's so much fear and anxiety around where we're going right now in
Right.
technology. And for
Right.
me, these are the stories that I think that people need to hear is that like young people are building their digital camera like Lego set and going to screen free prom and loving it and like
Yes.
inspiring, a whole
Preach.
generation to do that. So I got pretty inspired that day for sure.
I absolutely love that. Talk about telling the other half of the story.
Right?
That is absolutely
Yes.
beautiful. And it shows the value of that play. It
Yeah.
shows the value of how these young people, they want more than
Yes.
scrolling. They want more than these digital
Yes.
devices. And I love that the youth came up with that. That was their idea and
Right?
it clearly
Yeah.
took off. What a modern
Yeah.
way of like, Polaroids were very popular when I was younger.
Yeah.
And you see them at weddings and stuff like that. Like people love to do that. But for
Right.
young people to really embrace that and bring that back into the, you see this vintage stuff coming back
Yes.
up and to really embrace that and to really make it their own, I think is fabulous.
What's funny is we had lottery prizes at this screen free prom, and one of them was AirPods. The students cared less about that, and they were more like, where do I go
What?
check out the Polaroid and the digital camera? Like all they wanted, they were obsessed with the cameras and the Legos. So, I mean,
That's
yeah, tell that
amazing.
story, right?
Right. It's like I remember it was like iPads and this and headphones.
No,
No, young people don't
they're
want
like,
that anymore.
I'm
Like if that's
good.
accessible, right? I'm good. Give me
Yes.
the Lego. Give
Give me the
me
digital
the
camera,
play. Give
please.
me the digital
Yes.
camera.
Give me the
I
play.
absolutely love that. How inspiring. And I hope that folks that are listening really understand there's so many different approaches you could do it. Ask the young people what they want in your own community.
Mhm.
How do we get people to think differently? For those that are listening, we have people that work with young people in all sorts of capacities, whether they be educators, community leaders, people that work in public health, that develop programs. We have researchers. We have all kinds of people that work in different ways with
Yeah.
young people. How do we empower them to think differently? To get young people to come back to them and be very excited and proud to be a part of what they're doing?
Well, one, it makes me excited that such amazing people that are dedicating their life to this are listening. It's something that I really like to think about. We talked a lot about meeting teens where they are. Teens right now are overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed.
Right.
There's a lot of pressure to be perfect to achieve. I think that something that's often missed is like, how do we create value for teenagers in the
Yes.
programming that we create for them that is like genuinely meeting them to what they're needing right now? The way we look at that is things like mentoring, intergenerational mentoring. We do that all the time. We have workshops, as part of our Digital Civics Academy with researchers teaching young people this is how you could do research as a high schooler. We have, workshops with AI leaders on like, this is how you can adapt so that you are ready for any job market in the age of AI. Young people are also, they're worried about college. They're looking for resume
Right.
builders. They're looking for someone to help them edit their college essays or, just talk to them about how to fill out their FAFSA. These sound like logistical things, but they're the add value. Yes, compensation is amazing. Yes, getting free food for them is amazing, but beyond that, how are you creating something that meets their uncertainty? The world is uncertain right now. They're not sure how to succeed in today's world. So it's that value add of giving them something that meets them where they are. I think on top of that, when we talk about replicating things, half the story started in a dorm room, right?
Right.
And then this year we're reaching 60,000 young people across our programming. So there's
Whoa. 60,000 is not a small number.
not a small number. And so I think it's that like domino effect of starting small. Think about the young people that are in your network, like across the dinner table or, at the family gathering. The headline here, I think, is actually ask teens what they need and then listen and build to meet that moment.
Right. And find those unique partnerships like a school, or there's community centers anywhere, right? You meet them where you are and ask them. And another thing that hit me in the face of aha moment is
Mm,
you don't have to provide food all the time, right? Like we always think, oh,
yes.
just provide pizza and people love free food will get there. I mean, not no, but we've said this a couple times, but I want to say this again is that the add value. Young
Hmm.
people want to be set up for success. You've talked about that so many
Yes.
times. We're teaching you skills, right? We're giving you
Hmm.
the opportunity. You introduce them to a policymaker. You introduce them to adults. We as adults, we have access to adults. Like you said, there's somebody
Yeah.
sitting at your dinner table. Ask them if they want to
Yeah.
get involved. Hey, can you read this resume? Hey, can you talk to this young person
Absolutely.
about what you do? Like, what do you do for a living? Let me introduce
Yes.
you to a young person who might get inspired by that. I've had
Yes.
several episodes about that. I've talked to an organization that literally pairs young people with medical
Hmm.
professions in the pediatric world to get
Yes.
them inspired as volunteers to get them to understand
Yeah.
what the pediatric world is like, to then help them recruit for jobs in the pediatric
Hmm.
world. That is such an easy way to do it. I am so
Yeah.
inspired by this domino effect and keeping it simple and meeting kids where
Yeah.
they are. Like we say that a lot here, but this example that you have set of how easy it has been to get 60,000 young people across programming this year. That I'm in awe of what you all have accomplished. Everyone, to learn more about this incredible organization, please visit halfthestoryproject.org. Daniella, thank you again so much for your time today. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. It was so much fun.
A huge thank you to the Virginia Foundation for Healthy Youth and Prevention Connections for their support. And thanks to Mauricio Reyes for creating that great music score. Don't forget to share this with others, because the only way we can make real change is if we do it together. And hey, if you like today's conversation, go ahead and give us that 5-star review. Now go out there, everybody, go do good. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.